When I think back to the isekai greats, I'm talking Inuyasha, Vision of Escaflowne, Log Horizon, Digimon, Re:Zero, the Fridge one. There's one series that stands above them all, new and old, and that show is Konosuba. Ha! You may think I jest, but you're dead wrong. Konosuba is the GOAT, and the fact that it's continually being animated and disseminated to you is partially proof of that. Every time it seems like we may not see another season, Konosuba comes back and it never fails to delight. It is, to date, the only light novel I physically own in completion, and that's not just because it's relatively short and cheap, though that didn't hurt, but I would actively wait for it to come out so I could buy it. And yeah, the ending was lackluster, hate to burst your bubble, but you know what? Joke's on me for thinking it would be anything else, because this series is perfect in its consistency. It is consistently dumb and ironic, charming, and most of all, dumb in an incredibly witty way. Author Natsumi Akatsuki is a person who could see the future back in 2012, a future where the world of modern anime would basically be nothing but isekai. Akatsuki knew exactly what we would be seeing show to show and began ripping it apart before it even happened. There is only one word to describe the world and characters of Konosuba, and I can't say it anymore because it's super offensive, so I will refrain and instead use the word booby doobie. So with season 3 working its way into our brain cells and destroying them one by one, I will refrain from delaying any longer. This is Konosuba, the worst girls and the heroes we deserve. Let's get into it. Hey, if you guys want to find out how I got this shiner, you're gonna have to stick around for a minute. Did you know that the Stanley Cup Finals are this week? Probably not. You're probably saying, hey Mike, I don't do the sportses. Why are you even bringing it up? Well, it's not about the sports. It's about the streaming. There are like 20 different services that stream hockey games, but each one has a bunch of games locked out by region. That means you could be spending well over $150 a year to watch content you're not actually getting. You're paying for it though. But guess what? Turns out, allegedly, that there are places online where you can watch these games for free. Just not if you're in America. But I'm in America, 98% of you people are saying. Well, guess what? Your IP address doesn't have to be. This week's video is sponsored by Surfshark, a VPN service I was in desperate need of. Now I can watch Connor McDavid top shelf wipe the floor with Florida without having to get another $20 a month subscription. Not only that, but I can listen to Toshiki Katamatsu on Spotify without having to move to Japan. All you gotta do is move your IP address using Surfshark's VPN. Put my little IP in Japan, bam, I'm Japanese on the internet. Surfshark makes it easy and inexpensive to get what you want from the internet, but also what you need with its security and privacy additions. So you're asking me now, with all the VPNs out there, why should I choose Surfshark? And the answer is simple. It's because they choose us, the little guys. And they gave us a great deal to give to you. So use our link in the description and use our code bonsaipop to get 4 months for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can't get a better deal anywhere. It helps us out. And nowadays, you can't unlock the full potential of the internet without a VPN. So choose us and choose Surfshark. Thanks, Surfshark. Now back to Konosuba. So earlier this week, I was out on a rollerblade ride for exercise. I was doing 20 miles, and on the way back, I stopped because I needed to get something out of my backpack. So I did a cool power slide like a cool guy, and then I hit my back on this fence bar that was keeping the bike trail from the main road, and I just smashed my face in the pavement. I know, I'm looking good. So first thought, that was a loud crack. Thought 2, Devin is going to kill me for not wearing a helmet. Thought 3, uh-oh, I think I ripped my eyebrow off. Thought 4, at least I'm covering Konosuba this week. That's right, swollen black eye, forehead taped together, and mildly concussed. I go about this writing endeavor with absolute confidence because it is Konosuba. If you want a real deep dive into this show and its characters, I highly recommend our first video covering the series. I mean, did you realize that explosion was a euphemism for a pants explosion? I did. It's in that video. But here, the doctor said I shouldn't use my brain for a while, so this should be easy. Konosuba, in its essence, is the antithesis to the antithesis when it comes to isekai. The genre is literally boring person dies and gets sent to a world where they aren't boring and sexy people follow them and they get OP and stuff happens. Kazuma is not OP. Most of the time, everybody hates him, and while sexy ladies follow him around, it's because literally nobody else would take them in. because they're insane. After having a heart attack, thinking he was going to get hit by a truck that was actually a tractor and pissing himself to death while his family watched and laughed, Kazuma thinks it's a great move to bring the goddess Aqua into his new world as a weapon out of spite because she laughed at him too. Of course, this was only to find out that she is a totally useless booby doobie to the max. Not only that, but she's a wet brain drunk, which is doubly funny because she's the goddess of water. It's perfect. Then comes in Megumin, a hot topic edgelord teeny bopper who, instead of becoming a powerhouse mage, decided to go with her fetish and only have one spell that she can't use 90% of the time and leaves her needing a sandwich and a nap. And of course, you got Darkness, the holy crusader who's constantly caked in knee juice, thinking about getting pummeled and humiliated and can't hit the air with a B-52. Even Kazuma himself had the opportunity to become the most powerful person in this parallel world, but because he is a petty, spiteful idiot, he ended up with Big Blue Booby Doobie entirely his fault. And it's supposed to be Kazuma's goal to defeat the Demon Lord so Aqua can go back to heaven, but he doesn't really care. The beginner town of Axel where he landed is chill and has everything he could ever need, a bar and a low-key succubus service. All he needs is a little cash now and a place to stay, and he's set. Oh, look at that, he's got all the money in the world and a mansion. Things he of course gained by causing problems he blames on others and then accidentally fixing them. There is literally nothing in this series that happens the way it should by isekai standards because everyone is a complete idiot. Ironically, except for Megumin, she's actually a genius, but she's so obsessed with her big release that logic goes out the window 99% of the time. Again, it's all irony and deeply disturbed personalities, but it works and it keeps on working, and not in a Seinfeld way, right? This isn't a show where nothing happens. These morons continually make progress towards the Demon Lord despite Kazuma's best efforts not to. This failing upward is again excellent irony. And then it turns out that most of the Demon King's generals that they're killing are just as booby-doobylicious as the rest of the cast and don't really care that much about the Demon King to begin with. So on top of it being a show full of idiots, it's also one of the horniest anime on the docket. You have sexually frustrated eternal virgin Kazuma who always does the wrong thing, the men of Axel who are all addicted to the succubus den, Megumin who needs to bust every day, Darkness who legitimately needs help, and Aqua who walks around all day with invisible underwear. That's what the community has decided. She turns them invisible so people can't see them. Yes, she is booby doobie, but that will still land you in the position of telling all your neighbors that you're on a list. And of course, none of this leads to defeating the Demon King, yet the crew managed to slay one general after the other, and by season 3, they've nailed basically 5 if you include Wiz, who doesn't fight and is friends with the team, and of course has major personality flaws, ranking her as a close second to Aqua when it comes to the level of booby doobiness. But then the series has the audacity to throw in sincere moments on top of everything. I mean, Kazuma's group loves each other despite their many flaws. Even though Kazuma himself juggles the idea of tossing them all away at any given point, he always comes back when he actually thinks about it, mostly because he's having fun, but it usually takes him dying again to remember that. Again, ironically, every time he dies, which he does a decent amount, he gets to meet with Aqua's junior goddess Eris, who is seemingly the only sane person in the universe. But I would wait on that assumption though. Anyway, she grounds him and guides him before Aqua's squealing rouses Kazuma back from the dead in the end. So you would think a stupid show like this would be sent to the B-side bin, but instead it gets all the special treatment. Konosuba has a great soundtrack, amazing animation, and arguably the best Japanese voice acting I've seen in an anime in 20 years. It is hard to pull off cross-language humor, especially fast, witty humor, but the Japanese cast is so good it hurts. The English is not half bad, and I do rewatch generally in English, but you have got to watch all of Konosuba, every episode and the movie, in its original Japanese first. It is legitimately funnier in every aspect.
なんだよ。
レディーファーストって知ってますか？
But obviously we're here right now because season 3 is coming out. So what about season 3? To be honest, I wasn't super hype about it originally. I was very excited that the anime was continuing, but I've read all the light novels already and I knew what was on the way. I knew season 3 was going to throw in some new characters, new settings that weren't super top tier in the novels, but somewhere along the line, I forgot what the anime does for the series. It is just that good. It elevates an already great light novel above and beyond the source material in every single way. Starting off the season with Kazuma being traumatized from his lover's suicide with hermaphroditic chimera and having nightmares about her poking him in the butt with the nether rod. Just really brings you right back into it like you never left. And of course, the one thing that gets him over his trauma is money. But this is where Chris comes into the picture for real finally. And her whole deal hasn't been totally gone over yet, so I'm not going to spoil anything. But Chris rules, is super fun. Kind of one of the better characters. And then we get Eris, the new true blue lolly who elevates Kazuma's creepy side to whole new levels. After managing to make it through a meeting with the little princess without losing their heads, Kazuma's group loses their de facto leader when Princess Eris kidnaps him and brings him to her palace. And this could not be better for Kazuma, who is nothing but a lazy POS who desires nothing but to do nothing and have everything handed to him. You see a lot of times in isekai when you have this NEET that goes to another world and then, you know, they realize that being a NEET was a bad thing. Kazuma never lets it go. That's actually what he wants to do. Kazuma is a NEET and that's what he loves. So now he's here and he's got it. And Kazuma constantly calling the butler Sebastian when it's not his actual name and he knows it is definitely a highlight for me.
お呼びでしょうか、カズマ様。
目覚めのコーヒーを頼むよ、セバスチャン。
ハイデルです。
So Kazutrash has to find a way to stay in the palace as long as he possibly can, which, if my brain was do-gooder, I would have an entire thing here about how Kazuma is literally Rasputin in this arc, but it's not do-better, so let's continue. And Eris, of course, is a cute little girl who's sheltered by her life in the palace, and Kazuma has now become her Oni-chan, which, if you don't know, is a little less creepy than it seems. So quickly, being called Oni-chan has a ton of cultural significance. It's a sign of deep respect and admiration, essentially elevating you to one of the highest places of affection and guidance for someone younger than you. And naturally, someone deeply disturbed like Kazuma would get a thrill out of being the Oni-chan of a princess because of his deep personality flaws like self-grandeur. Of course, this is all thrown out the window when he and Eris switch bodies accidentally and Kazuma uses that as a way to get into the bath with Darkness and Eris's attendant. He's a bad man, isn't he? Let's all judge and tell ourselves we never would have done anything like that at his age. And speaking of this necklace that switches people's bodies, this is a sacred treasure and they're going to become more important as time goes by. After dying, again, to some kobolds, Kazuma agrees to help Eris look for these items that were given to people with dark hair and weird names that could totally destroy the world. Definitely wasn't Aqua doing that or anything. So now Kazuma and Chris must become the silver-haired thief brigade and steal these treasures from rich douchebags. And for the first time, we see Kazuma in top form. In fact, he screams it about 100 times while wrecking the palace guard and literally waterboarding Maizuki or whatever this dude's name is. Again, this is subtle but perfect irony. Kazuma is better as a bad guy. He works better as a bad guy because he's just that kind of person. He gets a thrill from messing with people and getting one over on others, but somehow you gotta love him. And of course, Megumin is totally blown away and obsessed with the look of these silver-haired thieves, and that just leads to comedy in and of itself. And what's interesting is this is going to be, the thieves are going to be something that continually pops up, and eventually we're probably going to get another side story that the light novels have kicked off as well, like we did with Explosion in Another World. But this time it's going to be Megumin and Eris and Chris. I can't promise that it's going to be animated. I don't know, but it's out there and it's interesting. I'm excited to see if it comes to the screen. But just like Kazuma, you gotta love all of these morons, and that's the best part. People do. They really love Konosuba. These characters, they are the heroes we deserve. Humanity doesn't deserve Superman or the X-Men. No, we deserve Kazuma Sato, because we're all kind of pieces of shit. He and his booby-dooby buds are a shining example of the truth within humanity. We are a bunch of obsessive compulsive booby-dooby masochists who revel in getting one over on the rest of the world. I mean, just look at America. Look at the last 10 years of world history. We are Konosuba, except it isn't funny unless you're watching it on another planet, which you may be depending on what cult you've signed up for. So, while Shield Hero, ReZero, that time I got reincarnated as a slime, Mushoku Tensei, Overlord, Sword Art Online, and No Game No Life are out there trying to make these sweeping fantasy storyscapes being new and original, Konosuba will always be over there alone in the corner going durr and getting just as much love as the rest, because Konosuba gets it. It's all stupid. It's all a joke, so have fun with it. Be the piece of shit that you are and laugh. Enjoy the stupid, flawed, booby-dooby people in your life that make it fun, and just laugh, because it was never really that serious to begin with. And know that no matter what isekai comes out in the future, Konosuba's already made fun of it. It's literally like Akatsuki has a superpower, but honestly guys, that's all for me this week. Hopefully this is the only concussed video you're gonna get, but I could not have had better subject material for this one. If you haven't watched Konosuba yet, go do it. You're wasting your life not. And if you weren't sure about season 3, now's the best time to do it. They got through one arc and they're starting the second one. Season 3 is so fun. But yeah, I appreciate you all. Join the Patreon. Bye.